Hey guys, welcome back. So now we're getting into part 4 of Maestro. I'm gonna go ahead and say it now, this is the best issue in this series so far. But I don't think a lot of people are gonna agree with that. I think it's gonna tear a lot of fans who are either Hulk fans in general or fans of Hercules. I think Peter David just threw a stick of dynamite between the two and just let it go. So let's get into it. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so in our last talk, we had seen Bruce make this announcement to the people of Dystopia after having that heated discussion with Rick Jones to where he had came to the conclusion that people needed to be ruled. And I do want to say that I'm referring to the Hulk as Bruce mainly because it's Bruce's conscious mind which is at the forefront, who on one hand was deceived by MODOK, but then on the other hand happy to see Rick Jones. And because of everything that he's experienced, this is the new solution that he's come to after so many years of seeing nothing else work. But with him proposing this idea to the people and coming at them with the whole idea of the dogs of war, of course they didn't take it so well. In any reality, who would just stand there, look at this dude and be like, oh hey, that's a good idea? With the exception of something you might see on Rick and Morty. And I just started watching that show, it is nuts. But with Bruce proposing his idea and the people not feeling it, like we had seen, he set the dogs of war on the people. But fortunately, Hercules showed up in time to prevent some of these people from getting eaten alive, but then also accept Bruce's challenge, if you will. And initially when Hercules gets there, he's tearing the dogs of war to pieces like it's nothing. And while he's doing this, he's telling Bruce hey buddy, I'm a little disappointed. And even to the point where Hercules expressed that it was tragic how much he had overestimated Bruce prior to this point. And because of that, when he tells Bruce to come down and give me the best you got, Bruce then jumps from his platform and he does exactly that. But when he jumped down to punch Hercules, in this moment, it didn't play out like he wanted it to, man. And I can't help but in my mind to hear this play out anyway, but and I'm pretty sure in Dystopia, they gotta have some version of TikTok or something, some version of it. Because I can't help but imagine somebody catching this either on their phone or on their retinal recorder or whatever, and just edit it side by side with the first Avengers film, especially with Hercules walking away like puny Banner. And really, from our perspective, it's a clear reference, and shout out to Peter David for using it well. But then also for me, it's it's here where the issue starts to get really good and just keeps getting better. Because for one, Banner does get upset, but nothing really changes and Hercules calls him out on it. And I think this is a great point to shine light on, especially in a narrative that is about Bruce Banner going from Bruce, the Incredible Hulk, to future imperfect Maestro. And we'll talk about more of that in a little bit. But one of the first things that Hercules points out after Banner lashes out and says he's gonna kill him, Hercules is just okay, first of all, I've heard that a lot over thousands of years and I'm still here. So that in itself should tell you something. But then it's here when Hercules begins to drop some wisdom on Bruce. And he tells him, usually in a situation like this, you would get madder, and the madder you would get, the stronger you would get, which essentially is Savage Hulk 101. But we know we're not dealing with the Savage Hulk because he wouldn't have planned this whole thing in the first place. But the thing that really did it for me in this moment, it was the fact that with fighting Hercules, he was matched up with someone who not only knew the Hulk and was able to measure not only if he was getting stronger or if he was putting up more of a fight, but Hercules had also exposed to Bruce in this moment that what made you mad before, or whatever psychologically pushed you to the next level, it no longer affects you. And it really comes off as a bit of foreshadowing to a Maestro that we'll hopefully see in this series later on. Because much like we've seen in other stories from other writers, the emotional state of Bruce Banner, it connects with his personality disorder, and that determines what Hulk will come to the surface. But right now, leading into your future imperfect, this Bruce has been mentally brought to his lowest. And not even so much physically, but mentally and emotionally. And when someone is brought that low, you don't get angry because you're past that. At this point, you become something else. And I mean, ultimately, it's a whole nother conversation whether that person turns into someone good or someone bad. But if that pain doesn't physically kill you, it'll definitely transform you. And after being transformed, the things you would get mad about, that you wouldn't get mad about anymore. And that's why in this fight, with Hercules punching Bruce in the face like go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, and Bruce doesn't get stronger, it's because Bruce, he is someone different at this point. And because of that, at this part of the fight, he's just like, okay, I quit, I give up. And I love that we see this because practically it's saying that he can't get mad enough at Hercules to get stronger. And from what we've seen, there's really nothing in this world, like with the exception of Rick, that he cares about enough to really push or show us that next level of his transformation. And really, in a sense, like his anger, it's hit a plateau, like it's flattened out. And it's like he's angry enough that he's always in a Hulk form, and it's like he cares so little but he's still angry, and it really sits Banner in this in-between weird space. But I'll also say here that I like that the current Maestro of this dystopia that is Hercules, because he's perfect for this role in a number of reasons. Because for Hercules, no matter how he feels, his strength, it just is what it is, and it just stays there. Plus, he's super playful and he has thousands of years of knowledge under his Hermes belt. And for those reasons, I like him in this narrative. But after beating Banner, Hercules invites him over to the palace, but Banner turns it down. He tells him that he hasn't earned it because he insulted Hercules and his people, and for that reason he'll visit Hercules at another time in the future. And when he says this, everyone in Dystopia sees it, like it's in Times Square and it's on the big screens. But then also when Decord hears this, she knows that this isn't gonna end well, and she takes this information over to Rick Jones. And when she does, immediately Rick Jones tells her that she's right. And it's crazy the way that he breaks this down, because at first he asks them if they're familiar with Bruce's father, Brian Banner. And for the most part, they kinda are. They heard that he was abusive, and Rick lets them know that in a number of ways, that abuse shaped Bruce into the Hulk that he became. And with that, like the Bruce Banner that most people commonly know, like the nice guy, that is only one variation of the multiple personalities. Because he describes Bruce Banner like the Banner that we're more familiar with, like he's a nice guy, he saved Rick Jones' life, but that's not the guy who came to see us the other day, but rather the guy who had came to see us, that's the real Bruce. Because much like the old saying, the son eventually becomes the father, and that's the Bruce that we're dealing with now. And much like his father, he's not gonna take a loss. He's gonna scheme, he's gonna manipulate, and eventually he's going to win. And it really just circles back to what I was talking about with Bruce being changed after all that he has been through, because with the way that Rick describes it, Bruce has come around full circle to becoming a man that is much like his father. And it is crazy how much it makes sense. But after this, we then jump over to the Maestro's palace, to where at this point sometime later, Bruce has made his way there to accept Hercules' invite, and when he does, he arrives humbly, but also with his guest Anne Darnell, who we've seen previously within this series. And when Hercules gets here, like initially Banner expresses that it took him a while to come back because that beatdown really did a number on him, so he needed time to recover. But Hercules is not really paying too much attention to the explanation, he's really just looking at the girl, and from there Hercules takes her on a tour, and really just so he can impress her and eventually shoot a shot. But when Hercules and Anne leave, Bruce is then asked like where he would like to be taken for his tour, and immediately he says the throne room, or whatever room that Hercules or Maestro rules from. But before he goes to see it, he's like, yo, I left something outside, I gotta go get that and I'll be right back. Which is the last thing you want to hear from somebody that you beat up the last time you seen them. And I'm kind of surprised that none of Hercules' people felt like, you know, some type of way about it. And I mean, even still, it sounded kind of strange to them, but eventually they was like, okay. And because of that, they let Bruce go do whatever he had to do. But now in the case of Hercules, aka Mr. Steal Your Girl, he then takes Anne to the nicest part of the palace, which of course would be the throne room, and it's here where she reveals to him her true form, with at one point in time her being vapor from the UFOs, and it's here where she uses her power to turn into a vapor and enters directly into the body of Hercules. And I mentioned earlier that we had seen Anne prior to this point because she was one of the people that Bruce had first seen when he was breaking out of AIM. And back at that time, we had talked about her history a little bit, like the UFOs, they're supposed to be like a copy or a remake of the Fantastic Four, but when they recreated the incident, they came out with different abilities. And in the case of Anne, rather than becoming the next Invisible Woman, she had the power of flight and the power to turn into a gas form. But also with looking back and thinking of Banner going to get Anne, I can only imagine that he had considered getting the Abomination for this task, but then he thought about it and he was like, I don't think he's Hercules' type. But jumping back to the present portion, with Anne, when she transforms into her gas form and enters into Hercules, like from there, for him, it's a wrap. And when this happens, like, it's so crazy and it's so messed up at the same time. Cause like, it doesn't matter how strong you are, it doesn't matter that you are the Hercules, like none of that matters. In Vapor, she went inside, she mixed some stuff around and straight up killed this dude. But as soon as this happens, like as soon as the deed is done, the door is kicked in and she's hit by Banner with a freeze gun, and immediately after she's frozen, Banner then breaks her into a billion pieces. And it is insane because Banner, he planned all of this. He brought Anne here because he knew Hercules had a weakness for women. And with freeing her from AIM, he probably made some deal with her, telling her that if she killed Hercules, he'll move her into the palace. But at the end of the day, Banner betrayed her too, because then he told everyone in the room to take the pieces of her and bury them all separately across the plains all over the kingdom. And with doing so, make sure that none of these pieces can regenerate. But man, like with all of this done, like this is crazy. And I mean, Banner, he even goes to Hercules' body and he's like, sorry bro, but nobody defeats the Hulk, which was next level disrespectful in itself. But even still, it goes to show us like this version of Banner, he's become something or someone completely different. And after betraying Hercules, like on a biblical scale, there's no one else here who can really contest him or do anything about it. And that's so crazy, man. Like, I did not see it playing out that way. But real quick, before we go, I want to give a shout out to all the Patreons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below so you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and either here or over on Discord. But really, like, I did not see this issue panning out the way that it did. And really, I thought it was gonna be another one of those Hulk fights versus Hercules, and Hulk somehow wins. But I'm glad it wasn't that. Like, this was way better. And it almost feels like a Bible story, man. Like, it was wild. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again in the next one. Alright, later.